Let's do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a special guest interview. I'm so excited to introduce Veronica Monet to you all today. Hello.
Hi.
Great to have you here, Veronica. I'm really excited for this conversation.
I'm really happy to be here too. It seems like we have a lot of resonance between our professions, our wheelhouses.
We so do. I'm just going to read your bio and then we'll jump in so the audience knows all about your background.
Okay.
So, Veronica Monet is an internationally acclaimed sexual and spiritual empowerment change agent. I love that. CNN, Fox, Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect, Yale, Stanford, and the New York Times are just a few of the numerous news and educational institutions that have hosted Veronica for her forward-thinking insights and expertise. Veronica helps her clients heal shame, align with their spiritual core, and live more joyfully. As an internal family systems informed relationship coach, certified sexologist, anger specialist, that's cool, and trained rape and domestic violence counselor, she combines her extensive education and experience with deep emotional intelligence and compassion. Having personally overcome incest, rape, violence, and abuse, she is committed to helping others own their personal and erotic empowerment. Wow. Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start with all that.
Well, so I've been using the internal family systems IFS training to help work around trauma with my clients, and I'm getting so much traction around that.
Yeah, and let's dive in. I know this is like a really hard topic for a lot of people to talk about and admit, like trauma, bad past experiences, maybe abuse. What are some common things people come to you for, and how do you kind of create safe spaces for people to open up about that?
That's a great question. And I just want to tell your viewers, I am a walking trigger warning. So I talk pretty plainly about things. And because I have been in recovery now for like over 3 decades, I bring a lightness and a joy to this discussion that might be a little jarring for somebody who's just starting to dig into the gnarly rage and grief. And believe me, I went through those stages too, and they're crucial. They're absolutely crucial. You cannot do any spiritual bypass on this stuff. But I just want you to know there's light at the end of the tunnel too. So, yeah, my clients oftentimes come to me because they're arguing too much. They're in a relationship and they're arguing, or they are not having great sex and they've been in a relationship, for 5, 10, sometimes 15, 20 years. So they don't usually come to me because they're like, hey, we have trauma.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, sometimes they don't even know they have trauma until they start working with me. And I definitely am very sensitive to false memories and things like that. I don't suggest stuff to clients. I just give them meditation exercises, and then they come tell me, oh my God, I did that exercise you gave me and I remembered something. And I'm really wanting to connect people to their hearts and their spiritual path through their genitals. Because I think this is a really overlooked aspect of human existence. And it's one that was kind of just taken for granted if you go back about 6,000 years. But after 6,000 years of patriarchy and monotheistic religion, we have really been just burdened with so much shaming. And I don't enjoy saying it, but I do often say, sex is kind of in this ghetto, what I call the sexual ghetto. It's over here, like going to the bathroom or something. And if it's not there, then it's over in this other place where it's going to solve all your problems, apparently. But really, I like what the ancients felt and believed, which was that it's a doorway to the divine. And I actually think there's something beautiful about using your body to actually leave your body, because you can achieve some ecstatic sexual states that actually take you out of your body. And it feels more like a prayer than going to the bathroom. So Yeah, but getting people there, I mean, sometimes I give them these exercises and they just have ascended experiences and it's awesome. And other times, and I always warn people that these meditations are just going to show you what's there. And
Mm,
think of it as being on layers, kind of like a parfait. The good stuff's probably at the bottom, but you're going to have to climb through all the other fluff at the top. And sometimes it's not fluff, sometimes it's really heavy lifting around some kind of trauma. And
mhm.
our genitals don't just carry sexual trauma. They do carry sexual trauma. So the tissues, they have a memory of their own. It really doesn't matter what your brain is thinking happened. Your tissues have a
Mhm.
memory of what happened.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes they also carry other traumas. Um, it's a very personal core part of our body. And if you believe in chakras, that's where the root chakra is. And so there's
Mhm.
just so many emotions in that area. And it's a great place to start working with those, healing them, surface them and heal them.
Mm.
And I know for myself, having taken this journey personally, it led to some big surprises, like um, my laughter had kind of been up here and it went all the way down to my toes. And yes, absolutely, I started having full body orgasms too, which was great, but I was really shocked about all the um, side effects of really unpacking the sexual trauma.
Mm.
And when I say sexual trauma, look, I am an incest survivor and a rape survivor, and I work with lots of people who are. But I want to be clear, we all have some kind of sexual trauma because somebody shamed us. And
Yeah.
it might be something as you might think innocuous, like a parent who barged in on your bedroom door and found you masturbating.
Mhm.
Um, Something worse, like getting slut shamed at school,
Mhm.
but it's there because it's in the culture. And just like what brand do you have? What flavor do you have? How does it impact you? Some curiosity around that really helps. So I warned you I'm long-winded. That was a big
Yeah.
answer.
No, I love
Sorry.
it. I think it's great, and I really appreciate you being open and sharing, that you've had those experiences, because I think that's what helps other people, like, brings courage to them to maybe start opening up more, like, people can relate. So I just appreciate that, and yeah, and I'm really curious about the part about your body and how it hold on to trauma, whether it's sexual or just shame, or like, how do you know that it's holding on? Because I haven't
Oh,
experienced myself, but I want to hear from you what you think.
well, it's interesting because, like I said, there's layers, right?
Hmm.
So when I first started working around my recovery as an incest survivor and a rape survivor, I was anorgasmic. That word means not capable of having an orgasm. Now, if I took a whole hour, I could sometimes produce an orgasm for myself, but I never had an orgasm with a partner. I just couldn't couldn't trust or let go enough to do that. It wasn't
Hmm.
safe, in other words.
Yeah.
And my body had wisdom about it. It knew that I was not somebody who knew how to have boundaries and knew how to take care of myself. That took time. It really took a
Hmm.
lot of time. So that's one way that the body has wisdom. It will just refuse to perform. Now, I
Hmm.
have clients who want to make their genitals do, you know, make the genital do something, make it give me pleasure. Where's the
Hmm.
button? And I was, it's not a toaster oven.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to tell you, oh, well, push this button, wait 3 minutes, and then everything comes out fine. Just
Yeah.
don't burn the toast. I'm like, it's it's part of you, and it
Mhm.
has emotional intelligence. We're finding out that there's like so many different brains in the body. They just found out that a lot of our brain is down in our gut.
Yes.
So I don't think the research is to the point where they're finding out that our brain is in our genitals too. We have
Mhm.
some rather crass jokes about that pertaining to cisgender men, but
Mhm.
I just think there's a heart, there's like an emotional body to
Mhm.
our genitals. And too often we are trying to treat it like it's a mechanical thing. And we just want to figure out how it works. And it's like, no, you need to have an intuitive conscious, energetic, emotional connection.
Mhm.
So aside from the fact that, okay, let's say a couple's been together for 10 years and they've just been having conflict, but ignoring it, like, kind of shoving it down. Oh, well, it's not worth a fight, so I just won't bring that up. It's kind of like piling up, piling up, piling up. And then, they wake up one morning and realize every time we try to have sex, nothing happens, or what does happen is kind of, eh. And
Yeah.
some people will have the tendency to want to attribute that to aging. And I'm not saying that aging of the human body doesn't bring some changes depending on where you are health wise. But I am saying that I've had many clients who were shocked that they'd come in, do a couple hours of anger management with me, go home and have the best sex they'd had in 15, 20 years.
Yes.
And I advertised that I'm a certified sexologist through American College of Sexologists, but you know something? I don't teach much sex. I was yesterday. It was fun. I've been working with a couple now
Yeah.
for several years, and we finally got to the sex part. But
Wow.
we've been working on anger management and communication all this time.
Mm-hmm.
And they go hand in hand. And I tell people, look, sure, I can teach you some stuff, but none of it's going to work if we don't work with the foundation of the relationship.
Yes.
That also applies to ourselves. Let's say you're single and you just want to self-pleasure. Too many people kind of approach their genitals with a certain amount of demanding energy, sometimes even hostile energy, sometimes shame-based energy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sorry, but your genitals have feelings too. So
Yeah,
you want to be nice and kind and loving and most of all, respectful. Very respectful. So if something's not happening down there the way you want it to, bring some curiosity and compassion to that. And I will just tell you right now, one of the exercises that I give, I call it a masturbation meditation. You want to have total privacy and lights, music, incense, candles, whatever, just try to arouse all your senses. Pretend you're on a date with yourself. Make it special.
Yeah.
and then keep a journal next to you. I'm just going to say next to your bed. I don't know if you're going to be in your bed. Maybe you're not. That might be the safest, most private place to do this kind of work though. And that's just in case you get some memories or thoughts or feelings that come up during this exercise. You want to be able to write them down.
Yeah.
And then you would take one hand, preferably probably the non-dominant hand, and place it on your heart chakra. And then you take the other hand and you're just going to cup it and place it on your genitals. You're not going to touch your genitals or wiggle them or try to make them arouse. You're just going to cup them. And then breathe nice, long, steady breaths for about 10 minutes.
Nice.
Clear your mind. See what comes up. You can have one mantra, and that is just, what do you want me to know?
Oh, cool.
And that's what you're asking your genitals. You're basically talking to your genitals. What do you want me to know? Now, for me, I've gotten images. I got images. I thought all my trauma was in the rape and the incest. Turns out I had some genital trauma from age 1 when I was in the hospital.
Oh, interesting.
That's the other thing to keep in mind. Not all trauma comes from bad things. Some trauma comes from things that saved your life. In this case, the doctor saved my life, but to do it, they probed me vaginally. And the reason they did that is because I was dying of an infection and nobody knew where it was. And they thought that it was probably up in my urethra. They're trying to get in there, and that's where it was located. So imagine I'm one. I think I was probably strapped down under these bright lights with these strange men sticking stuff inside me. Yeah. So that translated, what I got from doing this meditation was clarity that I was carrying tension in my hips from that life event, which, by the way, unfortunately extended over the course of an entire year. So there was repeated assaults on my little teeny body until they finally figured it out. But that hopefully modern medicine's advanced a little bit since then.
Yeah.
But I want to bring that up. It's a very personal thing. just in case people are thinking trauma is just, oh, people have a lot of defenses. Well, that never happened to me. I was like, well, probably
Mhm.
something did.
Yeah.
Something. So like, just be curious about that when you are doing this meditation and see what comes up. And please don't do to your genitals what probably other people have done to you and call them
Mhm.
liars.
Yeah.
Trust that they're bringing you something you need to see and look at.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
so much wisdom coming from our body. And like you said, you probably don't have conscious memories of those experiences, but your body does. It knew,
Yeah.
holds
How
on.
would I know that I had hospital trauma? I
Yeah,
was one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I
super
do not
smart
have
and
conscious memories of that, but by doing this meditation, I could see the pictures. And
mm,
I was like, what is that? What are those
yeah.
pictures? And I literally saw the bright lights, in like in a surgery room. And
Mm,
like, whoa, what's going on?
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Our bodies are so intuitive and so wise.
They are. So then I never like to leave people hanging. Okay, so you get
Mhm,
this information, you write it down in your journal, maybe you take it to your therapist and you talk about it, which is great. But we want to work with the body. So some
mhm,
of the things that you can do with the body, you could go see a sexological body worker. Make sure they are certified through Joseph Kramer's Sexological Body Work Institute. You can find
yeah.
it online. They would actually touch your genitals in a way to release the trauma. So you would have a trained person helping you. That's not going to work for everybody. Not everybody wants a stranger, no matter how gloved their hand is or how many certifications they have after their name, to touch them there, especially if they're a survivor. So if that doesn't work for you, the other thing you might think about doing is massage and
Mhm,
trauma informed yoga, where you're actually stretching the body. Now, it's true you wouldn't actually be working directly with the genitals, but it's still really a fabulous way to address trauma. And if you want more tips on addressing trauma, please get a copy of Vander Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. New York Times bestselling book. I know, do not make any money advertising this book. I'm in love with it.
So
And
powerful.
yeah, so it's basically trauma informed yoga and
Mhm,
internal family systems therapy and
mhm,
EMDR, which
mhm.
is the rapid eye movement thing. Bilateral stimulation really is what it is. Um, those are the things that actually work. Now, I don't think Vander Kolk knows about sexological body work, but it was started specifically to treat trauma in the genital region. So
Mhm.
I hope that
Yeah.
gives you some tools.
Yeah, and for anyone who's like, I don't necessarily want someone touching me, like I've actually had some experience with doing it myself, and I was amazed that this like pain and discomfort in my body went away just by doing it myself. So
Yeah.
I was like
I
blown
know you're
away.
interviewing me, but I'd like to hear just a little bit about how you did that.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of a background. I was experiencing some discomfort in my vagina and I got tested. I was like, what is going on? I've never felt this before. No STIs, no nothing. And I was just like, hey, it's energetic. It happened after a betrayal in my life. And so my body was like holding on to this. So I went to see a sexological body worker. She kind of told me about how to like do some practices around that just to like explore the area and like just see what my body is telling me and what it
Yeah.
needs. So yeah, just like some practices of like internal massage and like
Right.
and also doing some like meditations with it and it went away and I was like what like
Yeah.
cool.
That is so awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
So and that's another option. Go to a sexological body worker who can teach you how to do it yourself without touching you.
Yes.
So the other thing I want to share, since we're sharing how we personally have healed those kind of traumas,
Mhm.
I um did something called an anterior fornix erogenous zone massage. Now, let me explain.
Wow.
Lot of words.
Okay.
If you are a cisgender female, And particularly if you haven't had a hysterectomy and you still have a cervix, you'll be able to find this. But even if you had a hysterectomy, this is probably still up in there. It just might be a little more difficult to locate it. Basically, if you want to locate the G spot, you go in at about 2.5 inches, or the finger, and you press in against the anterior wall of the vaginal barrel, which is towards the belly. You're pushing towards the belly. Well, the A spot, as we call it, is located just further up, and that's a little bit difficult to reach with your finger. So I highly recommend getting a long, slender dildo, very slender and long, with a little hook on the end. And if any of your viewers can't find one, just PM me, email me, whatever. I'd be happy to direct you to. If they're cheap, like $20.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, same thing, go up, touch the tip of your cervix if you have a cervix. If you don't, then go about where you used to have one, and then towards the belly. There's a little indentation there, and you can find it on any diagram of an internal view of the vagina. They won't call it an erogenous zone. They'll just call it anterior fornix. It's us sexologists who add the erogenous to it. So, and the reason we do that is because it's very, very limited research on this, as far as documented research that was published. But this one scientist was able to help women who were anorgasmic, women who had entered into menopause and were having trouble lubricating, to rebirth their sexual response by stimulating that part of the vagina. I thought that was very interesting, went to explore it personally, and found out that place in my body had so much emotion in it. A really potent place to unpack trauma. And I just want to warn everybody, this is I like to think of this as your holy of holies, your most sacred temple, if you will. So you want to come with that level of reverence and curiosity. And the touch is going to be like really light. It's super, super light. If you don't start off that way, you might actually experience some discomfort. It might hurt. So you just want to, you're just barely tickling it. And it's the same thing. What do you want me to know?
Yeah.
What do you want me to know? What do you want me to know? If you are a cisgender female, it might want to talk to you about some painful periods, might want to talk to you about a miscarriage, might want to talk to you about an abortion, might want to talk to you about a birth. Maybe it'll have something happy to say. Maybe it'll have some sadness. If you could just be open to that, and then it might have nothing to do with reproduction at all. It might have to do with people that you've had sexual intercourse with. Or maybe that if you've never had sexual intercourse, maybe it has something to say about that. In my case, it kind of wanted to complain about some of the idiots I had sex with.
I might have one or two of those as well.
Yeah, like, how could you? How could you do that to me?
Yeah. I can relate. I still feel some shame around some people I've chosen. I'm like, ooh, I didn't have my own back there.
Yeah, I think it was, for me, it wasn't shame. It was just feeling the grief of that and wanting to realize that I really matter. And having sex with me is a special privilege. And I think that is true of all of us, regardless of gender. Yeah.
Totally. And that was going to be my next question, Veronica. Like, we sort of talked about some practice you can do for females, but what about for penis owners? Like, what sort of things can they do?
Yes. Well, almost every penis owner I ever met has something called a rectum. And the rectum leads to an analogous tissue to the G spot. And in my circles, we call it the P spot. So that's the prostate. And it can do the same thing. And I am not talking about, whether or not you have any erotic relationship with this. You don't have to. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Doesn't matter. It's still similarly a repository of those traumas and stuffed emotions. And if you can go contact the P spot, and in this case, you're going about 2.5 inches up, and it's going to be the same thing. You're headed towards your belly. And that particular wall of the rectum is going to contact your prostate. And a lot of men do know where their prostate is because the doctors have located it for them. But if you don't, that's one way to do it. There's lots of amazing vibrators out there for men. Some of the top of the line, if you want to spend some real cash on this, is to go to Lelo, Lelo. And again, I'm not making any money off of these pipes. It's where I go for my vibrators. But you can also just Google 2022's best prostate massagers. And a lot of them are going to be a little aggressive for the kind of emotional, spiritual work we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to watch them because some of them have a lot of girth. They're like really big around. Some of them really are just about pounding you. And I would say, if you are really wanting to get in touch with the emotional aspects and not just produce a mind-blowing orgasm, and let's get to the mind-blowing orgasms after we do a little bit of emotional work. Really, because they'll be that much better. Then I would suggest get yourself a not a butt plug because they don't go up far enough, but a slender vibrator. It's got to be for the anus because it needs to have a phalange on it. Because the rectum has muscle contractions that'll actually pull things up, and you can kill yourself if it goes. If you lose it up there, or at the very least, it's a trip to the very embarrassing, painful trip to the hospital. So don't experiment with making your own stuff. I've had clients who do that. And don't try to share toys with a cisgender female. Get the stuff that's made for your butt. And do the same thing. Journal. Be very, very gentle. Very, very gentle. If you have a partner who is willing to do this with you, I've done this for male partners, and it's really a deeply emotional experience for a lot of men. But you are bringing to it so much love and curiosity and patience, and it can't be goal driven. Like, I'm not trying to get you off. I just want to find out what kind of feelings and emotions come up for you.
So, and you mentioned earlier, sometimes a symptom, I guess, of trauma for females is they can't orgasm, but for men, would you say maybe they can't get an erection? Would that be like one of them?
Well, that's one thing. Usually when I'm working with clients who have trouble with an erection, there is a relationship issue. Because so let me sort this out. I get a lot of ED clients. That's erectile dysfunction. And I always run through a litany of, are you on blood pressure medications? Have you been diagnosed with diabetes? Are you on antidepressants? Because some of them are also notorious for making it very difficult to either achieve an erection or an orgasm. So we run through that list. Now, let's say all of that's fine. And maybe this guy's even, I get a lot of clients referred by a doctor here locally in Grass Valley. And she's already tested their testosterone. They've got a complete clean bill of health when they come see me. So at that point, we're working on, I want to know, are you having erectile issues during masturbation? If you are, then we might need you to go see a specialist, because there is a condition where the arteries in the penis, the valves aren't holding the blood. And sometimes to hold the blood in there, and I'm not a doctor, I want to stress that. So you'd have to go see a specialist and get their diagnosis. But as a sexologist, I will suggest that people work with like a cock ring, which would actually hold the blood.
Yeah.
And that's helpful for some people.
Yeah.
But let's say masturbation is no problem at all. It's just partnered sex. Then it's a relationship issue.
Yes. It's not about the sex.
Yeah.
Something else.
Yeah. I mean, if this is happening only with your partner, it's a relationship issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's good to know for a lot of people, because a lot of the time, like you said, you're working with that couple you've been working with forever. You haven't even gotten to the sex. After like 2 years, you're just starting to get in there. So
exactly.
yeah.
And now we've laid this beautiful foundation. Now I don't want to scare people. It doesn't always take 2 years.
Yeah.
So this is working with a relationship that's been in existence for a couple decades. But some clients have come to see me, some couples have come to see me, they've just had 3 sessions and everything's great.
Yeah.
They just run around telling all their friends what a great sex life they're having.
Yeah. Perfect. You've opened the door.
Well, I always give people very concrete tools, and it just, a lot of it depends on, can they use the tools and trauma burdens. Okay. So if you don't have a lot of trauma, it's a lot easier to use the tools. If you have a lot of trauma, we got to get past that first.
Totally. Yeah, it definitely holds us back, even like subconsciously. We're not always aware that it's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, such powerful work. I bet people just come to you and experience these really profound shifts in their relationship with self and their body and their relationships. Like,
they do, Sydney, and I want to say that the way that I work with people, I experience profound shifts too. Because I'm always in partnership with people. I don't do a one size fits all. I'm giving you some of the exercises that I teach a lot of people, but they all lead different places. And I'm very responsive to that and curious about that. And I learn stuff about life and about my own spiritual path working with people. So it's just a really beautiful, fulfilling privilege.
yeah, definitely. Well, and I'm so grateful for you and your services and sharing your story and experiences to just help others. Like, I just think that's super admirable, and I'm grateful for you.
Thank you.
I know you have a client coming up, but is there anything else you'd love to share with us? Just any last thoughts or?
Yeah, one of the things that we didn't talk about was consent. And I just really want to say I have dug into a lot of research. I'm a rape counselor. I've dug into a lot of research around the whole topic of consent. And we've got a lot of myth out there about who is coerced sexually. A lot of your viewers probably don't know that men are also coerced, and not always by other men. There are men who have been coerced into unwanted sex by women.
Totally.
So that's important to know. We want to develop a sensitivity to, regardless of our gender or the gender of our partner, that we're sensitive to issues around consent.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, there's oftentimes a lot of focus on consent in a dating context. And I'm really about educating consent in relationship. Because there's an assumption sometimes that, well, if we've had sex once, we'll have sex again. People sometimes go into their gender role training of where he thinks he has to perform and she thinks she has to provide. And these are pleasure killers. And they're also, I think, soul killers in a lot of ways. They're a relationship killer too. So I'm really wanting to help people have healthier boundaries, even in and especially in their long-term sexual relationships. Those healthy boundaries will help you have a great sex life in forever and for as long as you want. But how do we do that? How do we have a healthy boundaries with somebody we want to be connected with? Most people only know how to do a no, if they know how to do that. So
Yeah.
I just want all your viewers to know that they could hop over to the Shame-Free Zone and check out my exquisite partnership formula. It's all about a no during sex.
Ooh.
And there's a free book that contains that. There's also an online video training.
So important. Such a great topic to bring up. Like you said, like consent within relationships. We probably don't even think about that concept. So yeah,
No.
I love that you support people around that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful. Oh, well, yeah, jump on over to Veronica's site, everyone, and check that out. I know it'll be super valuable. And thank you so much for being here. I've loved this chat and I would love to have you on again. It's just been
Anytime, Sydney. You're a lot of fun.
you too. And thanks for watching, the audience. I'm excited for you to see the next guest interview when it comes up, and Veronica when she comes back. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.